Nowadays, we're made to feel like everything we do, we have to do them fast. Whether it has to do with your work, housework, or just leisure activities, we feel like we have to get everything done quickly in order to feel more productive. However, being productive and doing things quickly is not the same thing. Sometimes they could even be total opposite of one another. Doing things more slowly and more methodically could actually end up being more efficient. I want to advocate for all of us to take more time, especially in doing the things that we like. We should do them more slowly and more mindfully and become more aware of different sensations during the process. This will help us become more patient and more calm versions of ourselves. So here are 6 things I think we should do more slowly in order to cultivate a more mindful lifestyle. Number 1, walk slower. For most of us living in North America, walking is not our main mode of transport. Most of the time when we're walking, we're not necessarily in a rush to get to a destination. Instead, I think we should fully focus on the process of our walking and walk for walking's sake. This means taking slower steps, noticing how your body feels when you're walking, noticing the sensation of the ground when you're stepping, and even becoming aware of your breath. This sends a signal to your brain that you're not in a rush to get anywhere, but instead, you're just enjoying the process. The next thing I think we should do slower is to eat and drink more slowly. So traditionally, eating is a social practice that we do while bonding with friends and families. Unfortunately, now with a lot of people living alone or working alone, eating and drinking has become a more solitary activity, and sometimes people just rush through it. But rushing through eating and drinking can actually be very bad for your body. You could end up overeating. You don't realize how full your stomach is until way after. So the best way to reverse this is probably just to become more mindful of your eating. Take notice of everything that you're eating and you're drinking. Take smaller bites and maybe try to eat and drink with a friend. In China and in Japan, drinking tea is actually a very ceremonial practice where we have to respect the tea that we drink and we have to sip it very slowly. That's similar to the concept of relaxing and drinking coffee or sipping wine and socializing. These are activities that are meant to be done slowly and not to be rushed through. The third thing I think doing slowly would help us is to respond to messages slowly. Just because you get an urgent message, you don't have to respond immediately. It's up to you to judge whether or not an immediate response from you is necessary. A lot of times when we're bombarded with emails and messages from work or from our families, we feel obligated to respond in order to be polite or to be responsible. In doing that, we shift our focus and our priorities onto responding to these messages. And a lot of times we end up responding with a lot of emotions because we haven't thought it through. So it's always a good idea to respond to messages slowly, to never react to anything too heated or emotional, and to really think about how you want to respond before you respond. Number 4 on the list is to read slowly. So reading is not a competition. We're no longer in middle school where we have to associate reading with a deadline or a certain amount of pages. Especially if you're reading for pleasure, you don't have to aim for a target number of pages or number of books. That target probably will detract from your joy of reading. So instead of focusing on how much time you've read or how many pages you've read, just sink into the material that you're reading, whether it's a story or it's a nonfiction. When you're reading slower, you have more time to think and reflect on what the author is talking to you about. You can engage and think more critically about the contents that you're reading. You can question if you agree with the author and the source, or if not, what do you really think about the subject? To me, reading is not only a passive activity, but a very active engagement of your mind. And sometimes when you're just speeding through passages, there's just no time for your brain to really think about what you're reading and engage with it. The next one can be a little bit controversial, and that is to travel slowly. For me, the purpose of traveling is to relax and also to fully surround yourself with a very different type of experience. Whether you're in a city and you're surrounded by all these cultural sites, or you're in a more natural environment, the point is for you to stop, to be present, and to soak in all of these different things that you wouldn't see in your natural environment. But if you're always thinking about, here are 5 or 6 other things I need to hit today, these are my checklists for this trip, or I have to take these amount of pictures, then you're missing the present moment. My ideal travel is to set myself 1 or 2 destinations at the most per day, and to just explore around and maybe think about what other things I want to do when I get there. You can be flexible because you never know what sorts of things are going to pop up on your trip, and you just don't want to rush yourself in order to hit some checklist. The last one really comes from the minimalist in me, and that is to shop slowly. Shopping has become such a habit for those of us living in North America that sometimes we don't even stop to think about all of the impacts it could have. Not only does it have an impact on our wallet and our savings, but also the impact that it could have on our environment and the people who are making these goods for us. When we're spending money on something, we're kind of voting with our money. And so when we spend money on a bunch of things we don't need or a bunch of low quality stuff, then we're telling the world with our money this is what it needs to produce more of. Which is why I definitely advocate for all of us to take a pause before we buy something. Always leave something in your cart online for a few days or a few weeks even to see if you really need it. And if not, then just save your money and don't buy it. Shift your focus onto something else and don't let shopping hijack your mind. So that's it. Those are a list of 6 things I think we should all do slower. If you enjoyed this video, then please try out some of these tips and check out my channel for other videos on peaceful living. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a peaceful holiday. Bye.